Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hosts Melanie Johnson and Jen Foster are the owners of Elite Online Publishing. They're both Wall Street Journal, USA Today best-selling authors. We're really glad you're here because this podcast was designed for you. Meet industry experts that share their secrets and strategies. Get successful results for your business in money, relationships, health, and your life. Each episode is going to inspire you to take action towards reaching your greatness.
Hey everyone, it's Melanie Johnson. Thanks for joining our podcast today. We have a super show today. It's something for everybody. Everyone should be listening to this show today. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and leave us a message and share the podcast with someone else you think could get something out of it. So today we are talking food. Who doesn't love food? We're eating all the time. But you have to have these tendencies. I know during COVID and we started these tendencies of ordering out and having delivery. My kids are doing it all the time. It's making me crazy. And then as a mom, I'm also at the end of the day going, I'm so tired. I don't want to cook. I didn't think about cooking tonight. And then you go to the order out thing. Or if you try and cook ahead of time, you're eating like the same thing over and over and over again. So we have Amy Lawrence with us today. She is the author of Gourmet Done Skinny, the meal method. It's a whole new way to look at things. So if you're a foodie and you're tired of eating the same order out stuff and you want your meals simple and to save the time in the kitchen, who doesn't want to do that? So put on your apron, grab your notebook, and get ready to learn the power of food prep with Amy Lawrence. Amy, thanks for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. One of my favorite things.
Oh my gosh, I have just embraced your philosophy ever since you came into Elite Online Publishing to publish your book. I have looked at food in an entirely different way. Tell us a little bit how you got started and what inspired you to be in the food industry.
Well, I've always been a foodie. My grandmother loved to cook. My mom didn't like to cook. And I think that's what kind of spurred me on. My mom let me do whatever I wanted, and she did the dishes, and it was great. And I was originally a teacher, but I just got this bug a long time ago, and I wanted to open a restaurant, a tea room specifically. And so I opened a tea room. I loved it. It was a lot of work, definitely a lot of work. And I didn't know about management. I mean, there's just so many things that you learn, but it was fabulous. I did love it. And then we ended up moving to Seattle back in 2010, and I closed the tea room, but I ended up opening up a retail tea shop here in Seattle area. And I had a commercial kitchen in the back where I blended and created my own teas, and that was going fabulous. And then in 2014, I used to do Pilates, and I tore my vertebral artery, which caused a stroke. And that kind of makes you change your priorities in life pretty quickly. So I sold the business, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I just knew that I needed to do something else. But I was so happy to be alive that I ate, and I ate a lot, and I ate like 40 pounds worth. So that was not good. And so then I joined a weight loss program, Weight Watchers actually, but I was so bored with their recipes. They were bland and they just weren't flavorful. And I had created a lot of recipes with the tea room originally. I love creating recipes, but I thought I can do healthy recipes. I can do this. I can add herbs and spices. And so that's how Gourmet Done Skinny, my blog, was born. So I did that for since 2017. And then I was tired of the whole weight loss or the Weight Watcher thing, like tracking and points. And it's just, it's just so much work. And I found this other program called Weight Loss Made Real. And I just love the founder's Cookie Rosenblum. And I just love her. And I loved her program. And she invited me to be a speaker on her bonus call for the members. And she said, can you do something on food prep? And I'm like, oh, sure. And I didn't realize at the time that I did food prep. I mean, I've been doing food prep, especially since I had the restaurant. I just didn't think my method was anything special. And so I did that call for them. And oh my gosh, the reaction that I got from the audience or from her readers and her members, they just thought my methods were like really unique. And my sister-in-law said, you should write a book. And I'm like, well, maybe I should. And I'd written some cookbooks before, but never I did do some resource books, but never like this. And then I met you at eWomen and saw you in the booth. And I thought, yep, I'm going to do this. So that's how I'm here today.
Well,
So,
let's dive into your method. It's so different than the normal food prep that we have. I mean, anyone who is into food that's listening to this, usually it's, cook 12 chicken breasts, put them all in these little boxes. By the time you reheat them, they're kind of dry. You know what I mean? So you have a totally different concept and method. So walk us through that.
yeah. So yes, my method is very different. And I have to say, when I see those, especially online, I see these I'm on food prep groups, and I see I don't know if you all know what the black prep boxes look like. And I see them all lined up with chicken and rice and broccoli. And it's like, it just makes me cringe, because who wants to eat that 5 days, in a row? Just no.
Yeah.
So my method is, there's different ways you can do it. A lot of people have heard about the big cook day, which everybody dreads, the big cook day. And you can do that in my method too. But my favorite way to do food prep is every time you make something, you double or triple it. So that's I have 3 different options. So that's one of the options. And so, I make a wonderful Instapot Kahlua pig. And we have it for dinner that night. And then I pack it up into the vacuum sealed bags and I put it in the freezer. And the thing about the vacuum sealed bags is it keeps the food fresh for almost 2 years. I mean, it's amazing how long it can keep. But the trick for my method, which people don't do, is I portion it out. So like maybe 1 cup at a time in these little portions, or like soup. Say you make a big pot of soup. A lot of people will love to freeze soup, but they freeze it in the big thing and then you have to thaw it out, and it's a lot of work. If you freeze it into 1 cup portions, then you can always have a cup of soup, and it's always handy in your freezer. And so that's how my method is a little bit different. And I also, my method is cook 3 times a week and enjoy beautiful meals 7 days a week that are fresh.
And the other thing I remember you talking about is, so you have these little individual things, but let's say like you have people, I mean, at our house, I call the house the family frat. So all of a sudden 4 other boys show up. Right. So you could just pull out 4 more of those individual things. And then all of a sudden the meal just got bigger and you didn't have to cook more. Like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Kind of walk through that of how you've done that. You have some great stories about that.
Oh yeah. So one of my stories was it happens all the time, but last summer was a good example. So my mom is vegan. My dad eats pretty much anything. My uncle was visiting and he used to own cattle. So he's a beef. You're not going to get him to eat pork or chicken. My aunt's trying to be, good with weight. So she likes salad. And so we're all there and nobody wants to eat out, and which I actually love eating out sometimes, especially when we have company. But anyway, nobody wanted to eat out. It was lunch. And I'm like, okay, so here's what we got. Uncle Ron, you can have my meatloaf because I have these meatloafs in the freezer. Dad, you and I are going to have soup. Mom's going to have a vegan enchilada that I pulled out of the freezer, and the kids get to pick whatever they want, meatballs, whatever, chicken. I like to grill up chicken and then do it in 1 cup portions as well. And so for my aunt, I made a salad and I took one of those little packets of chicken and put it on there and added some veggies. And then she had a dressing and there we go. But everybody had something different, but everybody was happy. So that happens a lot at our house.
So what is your trick to, like, let's say you brought the chicken out from the freezer. What's your secret to reheat the chicken so it tastes really fresh still and not like rubbery from the microwave or something?
Right. So the chicken, I feel like chicken's not too bad actually, but if you cut the little vacuum seal pack, and that keeps it super fresh. So it'll be fresh, it'll be moist. I usually put it in another dish and then I reheat it depending on how many portions I've thought out I brought out. That's how I reheat it. But certain things like say steak, hamburgers, pizza, those need to be reheated differently. So like steak, I'll grill a bunch. And the thing about my method is when you're doing something, you might as well do a little extra because you've got to go shopping for it. You've got to do the dishes for it. You have to do the prep for it and 3 times. So if you just make 2 or 3 times the amount, it's so much less work. So like when I do steaks, we do extra. And then I freeze them up. And then when we're ready, I just had some the other day. I just pull out a steak and I cut a little pack open. I microwave it for maybe about a minute till it gets hot. And then I put it on a cookie sheet or a baking sheet and put it in the broiler and I have a great toaster oven, for about a minute, and it crisps it back up. Another good example is like leftover pizza. I will pull out, and my family, they like a certain place for pizza and I like a certain place and we don't like the same place. So I order my pizza and then I freeze vacuum seal into little individual pieces. But pizza, if you've ever microwave pizza, it sucks. It's chewy, it's gross, it's just not good. So what I do is I microwave it for about 25 seconds to get it warmed up. Then I put it in the broiler for about 3 minutes and it toasts everything up. So there's definitely a knack to reheating. You don't just stick it in the microwave.
Yeah, I missed what you said about the chicken. What do you do with chicken?
So chicken, actually, I think chicken's fine in the microwave as long as it's been in the vacuum sealed bags. Now, if you don't put it in there, then it gets dry and gross. But if you've done, and the chicken that I do is I brine the chicken first, which sounds hard, but it's not. You just throw the chicken in some water and salt for at least a couple hours. I like to do it overnight because then I don't have to think about it. Next day I grill it. I just grill a whole bunch of it, one of those big packs at Costco, and then I chop it all up and then vacuum seal it. So it's really moist. If you make chicken a different way, it could be very dry in the microwave. So it just depends on how you do it.
So you do chop it up. Do you chop your steaks up before you put it in the vacuum seal, or do you?
Nope. I just put those in just one steak in one pouch.
Okay.
Because I might want a steak, or the other day I decided I was going to have nachos. So I used half a steak and chopped it up and then made little nachos with it. And when people come over, you can make nachos really quick. I mean, just pull out a little bit of steak and I always have fresh veggies in the fridge, so I can do a lot with that. But yeah, it's just super easy. Or if you say you want to have pasta, you cook your pasta, you pull out steak, chop it up into little pieces, add your veggies. I mean, you can have a meal in 20 minutes. It's not hard at all.
Versus 2 hours that can normally take to cook something.
Right. And if you've already got your steak done or your chicken done, but my freezer is my friend. That's for sure. Everything pretty much goes in the freezer for food prep for me.
All right. So how do you remember, this is kind of a little off topic, how do you remember what's in your freezer?
So I have, and it's in the book too, actually, there's a picture of my freezer. I would like to say I'm the type A that has it all lined out, but I am just not. I mean, I'm not the one that throws it all in there either. That's not me either. But I have these plastic buckets in the fridge and in the freezer. And so I might have desserts, meats. The chicken gets its own box so it'll say grilled chicken. And I just have different things, and I have an upright freezer. So I have everything in there, but it's all organized. I mean, I know where to find it. If you were digging, soup has its own bin. So you just go in there. Everybody loves it. They go in there and they pick out what soup they want. Oh, I want Mexican. Oh, I want chicken noodle. And it's just, but you think about it, you make soup once and you've got at least 10 portions there. You can have it for dinner, but then you've got all these extra portions, and nothing goes to waste. That's the beauty about this. And because they're in the vacuum sealed bags, it stays fresh. If you stick in a Ziploc, it's the kiss of death. It's just it's freezer burned and all that. Yeah, there's a huge thing with vacuum sealed bags versus Ziplocs.
All right, I'm going to go out and get one of those today. I got going shopping for food. I've been gone for a while. I'm going to add that to my list of things. So that brings me to one of my next questions is, besides getting the vacuum sealed food, I guess it's a piece of machinery, little that you use, what other tools should we have in our kitchen that we make sure to make our life easier that you use?
So, what's really easy is, I don't know if you've heard of them, the super cubes. So like when you're making soup, before I would take a 1 cup measuring scoop of soup and put it in a bag. And then you have to kind of be careful when you vacuum seal it so you don't suck the soup up into the machine. It's doable, it works. However, the super cubes, they're kind of like ice cubes, but they come in different, or ice cube trays, and they come in different proportions. So I like the super cubes for the soup, and you fill up the super cubes with the soup, you freeze it. And then a lot of people, that's just where they leave it. But I like to make different soups. And so I need them out of that super cube. So you thaw them out for 10 minutes and then you put them in vacuum sealed bags from there. So they're little blocks of soup. And then I have the trays are free again for me to make a new soup. So that's how I end up with so many soups in the freezer.
Okay. So it's a 2-step process. You put it into the super cubes first, get it frozen, and then stick it into the sealer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if when my method is you cook 3 times a week. So, say you make 2, like in the winter, you wouldn't do it probably in the summer, but in the winter, maybe you make soup once a week. It's pretty easy to make soup, especially if you use the Instapot. I mean, look at all that extra soup that starts building up, and you don't have to worry about it going bad because it's in the vacuum sealed bags. So that's the beauty of it. My sister-in-law and I, we went to Idaho back in December, and it was treacherous driving home. Lots of snow, ice. We were just like, white knuckling it all the way home, and we're starving, but we don't want to stop because we don't want them to close the roads. And we finally get home and she's like, well, maybe we should order pizza. I'm like, pizza's going to take, an hour. at least. And I'm like, no, let's have soup. And I go into the freezer and I pull out some chicken noodle. And I also freeze the leftover, like if you buy a nice artesian bread, like from Costco, I'll freeze that in 2 slices in a bag. So I pulled out a couple slices of that and we had our soup, and in 15 minutes we had hot soup and we were full, and it was just, and it's exactly what we wanted. We were cold and just tired and hungry. And so, yeah.
A great story. I love that. So super cubes and the vacuum sealer. Is there any other tool?
Oh, knives. Good knives are very important. I just can't cut with bad knives. I even bring them with me when I travel. And I am a huge fan of the Instapot. And I am one of those cooks that likes to do everything by hand, the slow method typically. But that Instapot, it keeps the meat, it makes the meat so tender, and it's so quick, and you can cook dry beans without soaking them. In less than an hour. The Instapot is a really great thing.
I've never tried an Instapot. I've always had the slow cooker versus an Instapot, but from what you told me,
they're way different.
Entirely different.
Yeah. The Instapot actually, depending on the model you have, and all models have the slow cooker feature too, which I don't even use anymore. But the slow cooker does, cooks it all day, but I feel like it kind of mutes the food. It's been stewed all day, like deprived of oxygen. Whereas the Instapot, it depends on the dishes, but like if you have chopped up chicken, less than 5 minutes in the Instapot pressurizing, it's just so much faster and easier.
Wow.
And the thing is, the pan, you can saute in the pan, and you can also put the pan in the dishwasher. Whereas in a crock pot, you can't saute in the crock pot. You just won't get anything brown in the crock pot. So
for sure. That's I always think it's like I'm thinking, well, this doesn't make my life easier if I have to brown the meat first and then put it in the slow cooker, and then I got another pan to clean, versus if I just throw it in there. And then I've done it where I've thrown it in there, but you're right, it does not have the flavor that if you browned it and got the juices.
You need it brown because it keeps the juices in. So yes.
Yeah. Is there a brand of Instapot that you like better than other Instapots?
They have a bunch of different ones. The Instant Pot brand is my favorite. And I actually have 2 6-quarts and an 8-quart because I use it quite a bit. I use them for side dishes. Like I made potatoes last night, those little tiny baby potatoes that you can get at Costco. And I just threw them in there on the rack and then put half a cup of water in there and did them for 6 minutes, and then chopped them up and threw them in a skillet with some herbs. And we just had basically little fried potatoes, but we didn't use much oil. So it's a lot healthier for you.
If there were tips and time-saving tips and tricks to set up for success.
All right. So some tips and tricks. Definitely set yourself up for success by having the right equipment. It makes all the difference. I can totally promise you that. Don't get overwhelmed with my method. When you read the book, there are 3 different ways to food prep. Pick which way works for you. And I suggest you cook 3 times a week. But if that's too much for you, then just cook once a week. And you may slowly build up your freezer, and that's okay. If you want to get into it right away and do everything and get it loaded up fast, that's fine too. But just do what's comfortable for you.
Yeah, I'm inspired to. I bought one of those freezers that you have to lift up. It's not vertical, it's the horizontal freezer. I'm like, okay, I can put bins in there because everything gets thrown in there and then it's disorganized. So I think one of your tricks is, to be organized from the beginning, because if you can't find the soup in your freezer.
Very true. That is very true.
That's frustrating, and having all that right equipment and not getting stressed with the whole thing. Tell us the story of one of the great dinner parties that you've thrown, or someone that you've walked through that maybe had a transition in their life because of this method.
Well, actually, my mother is a good example. My mother has not liked to cook, all my life, pretty much. And she's vegan. So she's trying to cook these vegan recipes and everything. But she started to use my method maybe about a year ago. It's funny, when everybody comes to visit, they just see I pull out stuff and they're just amazed. And so she's starting to see my method. And when I go visit her, I always bring a big Yeti cooler, and she lives in Florida. So I pack things, and my dad is not vegan, so I pack a lot of meat stuff in there too. But I take all this food to them, and we fill up her freezer and everything. And she sees how great this is to have this food that you can just pull out. And I make her vegan meatballs and things like that. And so anyway, so she's been starting to use this method, and she's cooking with the Instapot. She used to be afraid of the Instapot. Now she loves the Instapot. And I'll call her up every once in a while and I'll say, what are you doing? Oh, I'm cooking today. And it's just, I mean, she's 76 and she just is having so much fun, and it's just cute. And the other day when I called her up, I said, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm organizing my freezer. She said, you left all this great food and it's just such a mess. So she got it all organized and she's like, it's like a buffet in here. Your dad's going to be so excited for dinner tonight. I'm just going to pull out this barbecue sauce and I'm going to pull out this steak and we're just going to have a great little meal for him. And then I'll have my little vegetarian meatballs. And she's just, I mean, it's just so funny because for somebody who really did not like cooking, she is just loving it. It's just so funny.
And embraced it. So there's so many things. This is definitely life-changing. And I think it's life-changing because once you start to do this, I've done it to a little bit of the degree, but now I'm going to notch it, kick it up a notch, doing what Amy says. I'm getting my freezer organized. I have some of the tools already, but I have to say it's been so rewarding and stress relief when you can pull something out of your freezer like this. So Amy, tell us where people can find you and tell us about your book.
Yeah, so my blog is gourmetdoneskinny.com. My book is called The Power of Food Prep, Taking the Stress Out of Meal Prep with the Gourmet Done Skinny Meal Method. And because of all of this and the book and all the excitement from everybody, I'm actually doing a membership. So once you read the book and you feel like you need a little extra help, join my Food Prep for Foodies membership and I will help walk you through it. I have videos and tells you how to use the vacuum sealer with wet foods and dry foods and Instapot and all sorts of things. Plus we're going to have recipes and I'll show you how to take one recipe and create a few different recipes from it. But yes, that's where you can find me in my blog for sure. And then definitely The Power of Food Prep book that's coming out very soon.
And she definitely makes food prep and cooking so easy. And the recipes are super, super delicious. So make sure you pick up that book. Thanks for joining us today. And if you'd like to become an author and a best-selling author like Amy, then make sure you reach out to us at Elite Online Publishing. We guarantee all our authors will hit a #1 bestseller with our marketing campaigns. So we're looking forward to hearing from you next time. Have a super great day and a great week. And we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.